Hey everyone, welcome back to another NASCAR Weekly Review. Before we get started, I'm sorry about the delay. It's been a very busy week for me, and I hope to get these started sooner, next week, starting at Darlington. Also, for those waiting for the Landing Castle video, that should be going live tomorrow. I'm also sorry about the delay there. But without further ado, let's get into the action that took place at the Paperclip. Starting off with the truck race on Friday night, which saw Daniel Hemrick pick up the victory over his MHR teammate, Tyler Ankrum. The main takeaway from this race would be Corey Heim once again dominating the race, only to have it taken away from him by factors out of his control. And then, on top of that, the other two fastest trucks in the field behind Heim of Ty Majeski and Caden Honeycutt deciding to junk themselves battling for the win, which ultimately handed the win to Hemrick. Moving on to the Xfinity race, where yeah, this was definitely something. Honestly, this race deserves a whole video itself covering the issues this series has at short tracks, but I won't have that rant here. All I'm gonna say is that Taylor Gray deserved to win that race, and a 50-point penalty was not nearly enough for what Sammy Smith did at the finish of this race. Congratulations, Austin Hill, though. On to the Cup Series. This wasn't the real result for the team, but this is the result you get for being disqualified. Just super unfortunate for Eric and this team considering how good of a start they had as a whole for this season so far. Fortunately for Jones, this isn't the biggest reason this team has been in the news for this week, so he has that to fall back on. Luckily for Cindric, he wasn't in the Duracell Menards car this week because that would make this DNF way more ironic. I think a team running out of batteries is definitely a first, but the bigger issue at hand is just Penske's mechanical woes in general. Hopefully they can figure something out fast. Not a terrible run for this team, and thankfully they were able to finish the race and not end up with a torn-up race car like they did at the Clash. Honestly, I think the biggest win for this team is that they finally started to leave Stenhouse alone on social media. Good to see both Casey Mears and Garage 66 back for a weekend. Really not much to say here. They did exactly what most people expected them to do, and they didn't do anything that hurt someone's day. A good thing for a team running in the back. New week, same script. SVG has proven that he is capable of competing at a high level in these cars and even at this track. I think people forget how good he ran in the fall here. A far cry from the 12th place finish he got back then. What is going on here? This result for Custer is even more disappointing when you look at the speed his car had in practice. Honestly, not much more to say here other than I hope the team figures something out to finish further up the order soon. For the second week in a row, the 21 has contact exiting the pits with someone that ends up affecting the team's race big time. Y'all still have that win in the bank, so it's not like days like this really matter right now. 7 races in, and Riley Herbst still hasn't shown off the prospects he had shown in other Cup starts to land him this ride. I'm sure the team will turn the corner soon. Riley was Cup ready despite what some people will argue, but so far this team has yet to hit the ground running in any way whatsoever. But after all, you need to learn how to crawl before you can learn to walk and run. Pretty much the expected result for this team. Honestly, a good day if you recall Cody's track record at this racetrack. What's even worse for Rick Ware Racing this week is that this is not even the worst thing that has happened to the team this week in the news. Just a bad day overall for this team considering the speed that both Noah and his teammates had shown. While he wasn't bricked up this week, he did get sent for a wild ride by the old El Paso car of Chris Buescher. Unfortunately, the 7 team was unable to continue their good momentum from the top 10 last week. Back to the drawing board. Speaking of not keeping up momentum, this was definitely not what the 48 team needed. Just bad luck mixed in with a multitude of speeding penalties, and this is the result you get. Will the real Brad Keselowski join us this year? There's no way that this team has had this much of a fall off, right? Right? Another middle-of-the-road run for John Hunter Nemechek. This team is slowly falling away from playoff contention, but at least they look a lot better than last year. I'm sure the 42 team can turn it around. Not a race up to par with the usual Chris Buescher standards. Honestly, a race that 17 fans would probably like to forget. I'll help them out here by not harping too hard on this one. When I mentioned last week that Homestead and Vegas could be outliers for AJ, I did not expect that to happen within a matter of a week. AJ just did not have the speed or the track position he needed today, and it showed. Well, this was my pick for the race winner, so that shows how much I know, I guess. Or maybe how much of a jinx I am. Not sure. But either way, not at all the expectation out of the 24 Not a terrible day for Suarez considering how much he and Trackhouse have struggled at this racetrack, but also not the greatest result when you look at where Ross ended up. Honestly, not a terrible run for Stenhouse at this racetrack considering his track record here. Also, it keeps him in the playoff bubble hunt, so not a bad day overall. A better result for Hocevar this week, definitely not where the team wants to be based on their speed, but definitely not as bad as where Carson would be getting the boy band together like the last couple of weeks. Austin Dillon has had another solid run to back up his finish last week. Nothing to complain about out of the 3 camp. Still not quite up to the Kyle Busch standard at this racetrack, but RCR has come a long way to getting back into a competitive position here. 17th isn't terrible, but still not up to KFB standards. Once again, a great day for Zane Smith, and he would have had an even better day if he didn't get involved in Ty Gibbs' spin off of Tyler Reddick's front bumper. Once again, we're back to Ty Dillon being the lead car at Kaulig. Great finish for the 10 team, and hopefully they can continue to get better. One question that I've had watching this team this week is if they're more closely related to RCR than the 16, because Ty spent a lot of the day closer to the 3 and the 8 than he did his own teammate. Tyler Reddick finished off a rough day in 14th. I know Martinsville is not one of his best tracks, but with Martinsville's spot in the playoffs, this is one of the tracks that you ultimately have to learn to perform at. Ask Kevin Harvick. This is more of the Ty Gibbs everyone was expecting to see this year. Still not quite where they want to be yet, though. They have still yet to get the bad luck out of their system as well. Another quiet but great result for the 71 team. If McDowell can continue this for the rest of the season, they might be able to sneak into the playoffs if there isn't too much chaos below the bubble. A great rebound for Ryan Blaney. I know this isn't the win that they could have had last week, but it's still a good points day overall. Top 10, Todd is back. A great day for Gilliland and the front row team. Todd has been really strong at Martinsville so far through his Cup career, so it's good to see him continue to run good at a track that gave him his first Truck Series win. Briscoe rounds out the day 9th as the 3rd best JGR car. Quite not up to the same level as Hamlin and Bell today, but another solid day for the Bass Pro boys. Joey Logs finally scored his first top 10 of the season. Almost thought it wasn't going to happen after he got spun by the 19 during the race, but he got it done after all. Ryan Preece continues to impress in the 60 car for RFK. I'm honestly very impressed at the runs that Preece has had in this car still. I know that he's a great race car driver, but I wasn't sure if the 41 was really holding him back. Either way, Preece is now a player in the Cup Series. Probably one of Ross's best runs of the Paperclip since joining Trackhouse, and this time he didn't have to ride the wall for it. Good to see them rebound from a horrible day at Homestead last week. Kyle Larson doesn't end up going back-to-back, but still a really good result for Larson. It's too early to tell, but if he keeps this up, he might finally be past his checkers or records days. Another good rebound story this week after a less than stellar result at Homestead for Elliott. Good to see Chase get a little closer to that form he had back in 2022. Bubba goes back-to-back and 3rd place finishes. Still amazing to see Bubba performing at the level he's been for the last few weeks, and if this continues, he might be an underdog title contender. Now, this is the Christopher Bell I know. Everybody needs to watch out for this team. This might be their year. If you can recall back to 2015, a 30-year-old Kyle Busch won his first NASCAR Cup title with Adam Stevens. Christopher Bell is 30 years old this year, with Adam Stevens on the box calling the shots. Denny Hamlin finally returns to victory lane. A great dominant day for the 11 team, a fantastic drive, fantastic burnout, and the fans are finally cheering Denny at his home track, and never mind. Now, I will say I love how entertaining Denny's trash talk is, but this is not his best work. But at the end of the day,
I think you know I beat your favorite driver again, right?
A lot to digest this week looking at the point standings. Looking at the bottom, Riley Herbst joins Shane Van Gisbergen, his Rookie of the Year competitor, down at the bottom of the leaderboard below 30th in points. Meanwhile, Ty Gibbs' good finish finally catapults him closer to the top 30 in points, but not quite there. Keselowski still continues to sit 30th in points with a terrible year so far. Honestly, the whole middle of the board for this portion of the point standings had a ton of shuffling amongst drivers, including seeing the 21 of Josh Berry dropping below the playoff cutoff, which means that the person sitting in 16th currently being Kyle Busch would be out of the playoffs if they were to start today. Finally, taking a look at the standings, there was a lot of movement, but mainly because Denny Hamlin jumped up the leaderboard and Alex Bowman fell 2 spots because of his bad day at Martinsville. Also, Chase Elliott was able to jump up into the top 3, which means that with the points tied between Bell and Bowman, technically you could argue that HMS has a full lock of all 4 cars in the top 4 in points, but they are giving the tiebreaker to Bell at the moment, so that is not really the case. Alright, so my final thoughts on Martinsville this weekend. I honestly love whenever all 3 series for NASCAR come back to the Paperclip. It's my home track, actually. I grew up, 45 minutes down the road in Salem, Virginia, so the place means a lot to me. It does hurt to see the Xfinity series kind of come down to what it came down to, with Sammy Smith absolutely destroying Taylor Gray in turn 3 to finish that race, but overall, it was another great Martinsville weekend, and it was fun to see Denny get back into victory lane and have a little bit more banter with the crowd, even though I thought it personally wasn't his best work. I know I'm beating a dead horse with that one. I already said it earlier in the video, but it's just true. I mean, he even went to Twitter and said 11-1 World 0, but I don't really get that, because I guess we're starting the count this week, because in my opinion, you already took 6 L's to the world before that, if you count the first 6 races, so just interesting overall. Moving on to what I expect at Darlington next week. Actually, before we do that, I will go ahead and quickly recap my where my predictions ended up for last week for Martinsville. They were terrible. Absolutely garbage. I don't think I got a single one right. Lane Riggs did not win the truck race. Parker Retzloff did not qualify in the top 10. I almost got a Gibbs driver winning right for Xfinity, but I picked Almirola, which that wasn't right. And then the one that could have won got shipped, so didn't get Austin Hill winning that one. RCR, I was kind of right, because I said they'd either... Actually, I wasn't right, because I said they would either be really competitive or they would be terrible, no in-between, and they were pretty much in the in-between. For Trackhouse, I said they were going to have a bad day, which was right if you look at SVG, and not really right if you look at Suarez and Ross, so terrible picks there, and I picked Byron, which I already stated earlier. He finished in the, 20s, so... But I'm going to pick again, so... Moving on to my picks for Darlington. First of all, let's move on for Xfinity. I'm going to go ahead and get the winner pick out of the way. I'm going to go very bold. I'm going to say it. This is finally the week Sheldon Creed gets his first career win in the Xfinity Series. Mark it. Put it down. It's a done deal. It's happening. The 00 is going to victory lane. Sheldon Creed is finally going to get that weight off his shoulders and pick up the dub at Darlington. I also will go ahead and throw in a little bonus. I think that Sammy Smith will DNF this race, and Taylor Gray will have a pretty stellar result if we're going to track those two battling. For the Cup Series, I think it's going to be maybe not the most eventful Darlington race that we've seen from Cup so far. For picking a winner, I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm going to write off Gibbs this week. They have not shown that much speed at 1.5 miles, so... Or at least the traditional 1.5 miles, like at Vegas. They looked really off at Vegas. Looked a little better at Homestead, but I'm a little concerned with Toyota's speed at the bigger track so far. I think that this will be the week that Penske will finally break through and win one. I know this is a little bold. I know they're having a lot of issues right now, but this seems like their time to strike, and I think Joey Logano wins. Nothing to go off of. Obviously, no practices have happened yet, so I have no speed charts to go off of or anything. Off of pure feel alone, this just feels like a race that Joey Logano is going to win and put Penske back on the map and give them that jolt that they need to help them out. So, hopefully we'll see what happens. Hopefully it doesn't go as bad as last week did for me, but I don't think it could possibly go as bad as last week did. So anyways, that's it for my weekly review. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Make sure to drop a comment, leave a like, and let me know what you think of the video. If you have any suggestions for me to make my content better and for these weekly reviews to be more entertaining, please let me know. I'm open for anything, and I hope you all enjoyed. Y'all have a great week, and I hope to see y'all for my next video covering Landing Castle's 2022 season.